The Onyx bar was supposed to feel classy. That night, it felt like a trap. The dim amber lights pressed on my chest, and the soft jazz sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else's life. My phone buzzed in my hand. He is here. With her. Do not go crazy. Too late. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. I already knew what I was walking into, but seeing it with my own eyes was a different kind of pain. I scanned the room, and then I saw him. Charles. My boyfriend of 3 years sat in a plush velvet booth in the corner, his arm resting along the back of the seat like he owned the place. The woman next to him was the same one from his office. The one he had sworn was just a colleague. She was leaning into him, laughing, her hand pressed on his thigh, his fingers tangled in her hair. That was not a friendly chat. My lungs forgot how to work. The air in the bar turned sharp and cold. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and crushed my heart with bare hands. For a second, all I could do was stand there and watch. Then the pain turned into something else. It turned into anger. White-hot, blinding anger that burned away the shock. I started walking toward them. The room faded until it was only the two of them at that booth. People moved out of my way, or maybe I just pushed past them. My legs felt stiff, like I was moving through mud, but I kept going. Charles, I said. My voice sounded calm, which surprised me. I felt anything but calm. He looked up, that charming smile on his face. I had loved that smile. I had trusted it. I had believed every lie it hid. When he saw me, the smile fell. Panic flashed across his eyes, then something worse. Annoyance. Paige, what are you doing here? I stared at him, then at the woman pressed against him. She shifted away, uncomfortable, but she did not move far enough. I could ask you the same thing, I said. The woman gave me a stiff little smile. She looked like she wanted to sink into the seat. I did not blame her. I blamed him. Every part of me blamed him. Charles sighed and ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. He did not look ashamed. He looked tired, bored, like I had interrupted him in the middle of a meeting. Look, Paige, let's not make a scene, he said. A scene, I repeated, and a bitter laugh slipped out of me. You bring your side girl to a bar where half our coworkers hang out, and you are worried that I will make a scene. His jaw tightened. He stood up, towering over me, his face suddenly hard. Okay, you want the truth? He said in a low voice, as if he was doing me a favor. What did you expect? I need someone on my level. Someone exciting. Paige, you are comfortable. You are predictable. He glanced back at the woman beside him, like she was a prize he was about to claim, then looked back at me. It was a challenge. His words hit harder than any slap. Comfortable. Predictable. That was how he saw me. Not as a partner. Not as a woman he loved. Just a safe choice he had grown bored with. My chest ached. I felt humiliated, standing there in front of them, in front of whoever was watching. My face burned. I wanted to cry, but I refused to give him that satisfaction. Something snapped inside me. If I walked away now, I would spend the rest of my life replaying this moment, thinking about how small he had made me feel. I would lie awake at night hearing that word. Predictable. I was done feeling small. My eyes swept the bar. That was when I saw him. He sat alone at the counter, a tall man in a dark suit. His skin was rich and deep, his shoulders broad, his posture straight and calm. He looked like he belonged in a high-end boardroom, not a noisy bar. His jaw was sharp, his features strong, his expression serious. He had an air of power around him that did not need loud words. People gave him space without even realizing it. He was the most intense man in the room. Perfect. Before I could talk myself out of it, I turned my back on Charles. I could feel his surprise like a physical pull. I walked straight toward the stranger at the bar, my heart racing faster with every step. The stranger looked up as I stopped in front of him. His eyes were a cool gray, sharp and observant. Some emotion flickered in them, something like curiosity and warning mixed together. I did not say a word. I grabbed the lapels of his expensive suit, pulled him toward me, and kissed him. It was not a soft, shy kiss. It was full of anger and pain and 3 years of love thrown in the trash. For a second, he was still, as if I had caught him off guard. Then I felt his hand slide to the small of my back. He pulled me closer, and his mouth moved against mine, strong and sure. The kiss changed. It was no longer just my rage. It was something else, something hot and electric that shot straight through me. My knees almost gave out. When I finally pulled away, I was breathing hard. My lips tingled. My head spun. I could still feel the press of his hand on my back. I did not look at him again. I could not. Instead, I turned back toward the booth. Charles stood there, watching, his mouth hanging open. His perfect world had just cracked. Turns out, Charles, I said, my voice steady and bright with fake cheer. I was also looking for something more exciting. I lifted my chin and walked out of the bar. I left behind my cheating ex, his stunned date, a room full of whispers, and the stranger I had just kissed without even knowing his name. Outside, the cool night air hit my face. My legs were shaking, but I kept walking. I had no idea what I had just done to my life. All I knew was that for one wild, insane moment, I had taken my power back. On Monday morning, I tried to pretend that night was just a bad dream. The office of Innovate Design Studio buzzed with the usual energy. People rushed around with coffee cups, arguing about color palettes and client feedback. I buried myself in my work, hiding behind layout grids and font choices. I ignored every text and call from Charles. I deleted his voicemails without listening. Every time I remembered the kiss with the stranger, my face heated up. It had felt right in the moment. In the harsh light of day, it felt reckless and crazy. At 10 in the morning, everything changed. Every computer pinged at once. A high-priority email flashed on my screen. Emergency all-hands meeting. Do not miss. The message was short, but it flipped my whole world upside down. Innovate Design Studio had been acquired overnight. We now belonged to Harrington Media, one of the biggest media companies in the country. There would be a town hall at 11. Our new CEO would be introduced. My stomach flipped. Acquisitions meant layoffs. Restructures. New bosses who did not care about old promises. I walked into the packed conference room with my coworkers, trying to joke about it to hide my fear. Inside, my hands were cold. I stood in the middle of the crowd, heart beating fast, staring at the small stage at the front. At exactly 11, our HR director walked up and tried to smile. His voice shook as he spoke about a new era and exciting change that no one believed. Then he said it. Please welcome our new CEO, Mr. Christopher Harrington. A man walked onto the stage, and my whole world stopped. It was him, the stranger from the bar. He walked onto the stage like he owned the room. He did. The stranger from the bar. The man I had grabbed and kissed like a crazy person. The man whose name I did not know. Now I knew. Christopher Harrington, the new CEO of the company that had just bought mine. The man who now controlled my salary, my projects, my future. My legs went weak. For a second, I honestly thought I might pass out. I gripped the back of the chair in front of me and stared up at him. He looked even more powerful on that stage than he had at the bar. Tall, strong shoulders, perfect dark suit, cool gray eyes sweeping over the crowd with calm control. The same quiet force. The same expensive confidence. Then his gaze found me. His eyes locked on mine across the packed room. There was no big change in his face, no gasp or wide smile. He stayed calm, but I saw it. The flicker, recognition, a flash of surprise, and something that made my stomach flip. Amusement. My heart started pounding so hard that I could hear it in my ears. HR kept talking, saying normal corporate things. Synergy. Efficiency. New era. None of it felt real. All I could feel was his stare and the memory of his hand on my back. The memory of my own lips on his. After a while, he took the microphone. Thank you, he said, voice low and even. I know change is never easy, but I did not acquire Innovate Design Studio to break it. I bought it because I believe in the talent here. People relaxed a little. He spoke about growth and opportunities, about keeping the creative spirit alive. It was a good speech. Calm, professional, almost cold. But the whole time, I felt like he was talking to everyone and still somehow talking straight to me. When the meeting ended, there was a rush of movement. People whispered about him, about Harrington Media, about what this meant. I tried to slip away into the crowd. If I could just make it to my desk, maybe I could hide. Paige, wait, Leo whispered, catching my sleeve. He looked right at you. Did you see that? I am pretty sure he was looking at everyone. I lied. My throat was dry. My palms were damp. You know, boss thing. Before Leo could answer, the room went strangely quiet around us. Conversations broke off in little pockets. It was like someone had turned down the volume. I felt it before I saw him. That same heavy presence. I turned. He was walking straight toward me. My coworkers stepped back without thinking, opening a clear path. They left me standing alone like I was already on trial. "Miss Blake, isn't it?" he said. His voice was calm and smooth. Up close, those gray eyes were even sharper. "Yes," I managed. Yes, I am Paige Blake." He held out his hand. It looked like a polite greeting, but there was something more in the set of his jaw and the steel in his eyes. It felt like a command. "I was reviewing your employee file this morning," he said. "Promising talent." I slid my shaking hand into his. His grip was firm and warm, and for a heartbeat I was right back in that bar, feeling his hand on the small of my back, pulling me closer. He leaned in just a little, his voice dropping so only I could hear. "I would like to see you in my office in 5 minutes," he murmured. "We have a lot to discuss about your future with this company." He released my hand and straightened like nothing unusual had happened. To my coworkers, it probably looked like a normal CEO moment. A simple note to a random employee. To me, it sounded like a sentence. The walk up to the executive floor felt like walking toward a firing squad. My legs were unsteady. My thoughts were a storm. He knows. He has to know. Of course he knows. You kissed him like a maniac in front of half the bar. I stopped outside the huge wooden door of his new office and knocked. My knuckles barely made a sound. "Enter," he called. I stepped inside. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the whole city. The furniture was sharp and modern, all glass and steel and dark wood. It felt like stepping into another world. His world. He stood with his back to me, looking out at the skyline. Hands in his pockets. Perfect posture. Like a king watching his kingdom. "Close the door," he said. I did. The soft click echoed in the quiet room. He turned slowly, like he was in no hurry at all. His face was calm, but his eyes held that same hint of wicked amusement I had seen in the conference room. "What a performance, Miss Blake," he said. I have to admit, it was the most memorable introduction I have ever had to a new employee. My cheeks burned. "Mr. Harrington, I am so sorry," I said in a rush. "I had no idea who you were. It was a terrible, unprofessional mistake. I was upset, and my ex was there, and a mistake." He cut in, one brow lifting. He moved closer, circling me slowly like he was studying a piece of art he might buy. "No," he said. "I disagree. It was a calculated move. Desperate, emotional, but deliberate. Very effective, too." He stopped in front of me. We were much too close. I could smell his cologne. Clean, subtle, expensive. The same scent from that night. "I cannot have that kind of unpredictability in my company," he said softly. "Passion is an asset. Recklessness is not." My stomach dropped. "I understand," I whispered. "If you are going to fire me, just say it." A short laugh escaped him, with no real humor in it. "Fire you," he said. "That would be too easy. I am not in the habit of throwing away talent just because it is dramatic." He walked back to his desk, picked up a file, and glanced at it. "Your junior design team position is being removed," he said. Cold washed over me. "What?" He looked up, his eyes pinning me in place. "From now on, you are my personal design liaison," he said. "You will report only to me. You will handle my top projects. Your desk will move to the anteroom outside this office." A promotion and a prison sentence, all in one breath. "You are isolating me," I said quietly. "I am redirecting you," he answered. "Consider it a unique opportunity, Miss Blake, or a consequence. It depends how you look at it." He smiled then, slow and dangerous. "Let us see what you do when the stakes are higher." The next morning, my life looked completely different. My old spot in the noisy, creative design department was gone. My new desk sat alone in the quiet space right outside his door. A sleek little island in a sea of polished floors and glass walls. People walked by, staring like I was an exhibit. Some gave me fake smiles. Some did not look at me at all. The whispers started fast. "That is her. The CEO's special project. No one gets moved up there in one day." They were not wrong. No one did. Mid-morning, his door opened. "Miss Blake." "Inside," he said. I grabbed my notebook and went in. My heart sped up every time I crossed that threshold. "Your first assignment," he said, sitting behind his desk like a judge. "You are going to redesign the Harrington Media logo." I stared at him. "The Harrington logo?" I repeated. "The one that is recognized across the world?" "Yes," he said. "That one. That is a months-long project," I said before I could stop myself. "Research, strategy, testing, revisions, presentations. It is huge." He leaned back in his chair, eyes never leaving mine. I want to see your initial concepts by the end of the week, he said. For days, my mouth went dry. That is impossible, I whispered. It is a challenge, he corrected, his tone cool. I expect you to meet it. I walked out of his office with my brutal and long. I stood in the back of the room while Christopher led the show. He walked them through the vision, the strategy, the change in message. The logo appeared on the giant screen, clean and bold. The board members loved it. They praised the new look, the modern feel, the fresh energy. Christopher said, "This direction came out of our in-house design team," and my chest tightened. For a second, I thought he would keep my name in the dark. Then he added, "With key work by Paige Blake." Their eyes turned toward me. I gave a small nod, trying not to show how much that one line meant. Later, when the news started to leak into design circles, my email filled with messages. People had seen the logo update. They were impressed. Some of them knew I had been moved to the CEO's floor. They put two and two together. It felt like a small win. A victory I had earned with sweat, fear, and too much coffee. And then Charles found out. He sent me a flood of angry texts. I ignored them. I was done letting his voice live in my head. But he was not done with me. One afternoon, I heard raised voices from the lobby downstairs. I was at my desk outside Christopher's office, working on a new set of layouts. The sound made my stomach twist. I knew that voice. Charles. I pushed open the glass doors and leaned over the railing that looked down into the marble lobby. He stood at the reception desk, angry and loud. "I am here to see Paige Blake," he told the receptionist. "Do you have an appointment, sir?" she asked, polite and firm. "I do not need an appointment," he snapped. "She will want to see me. We have unfinished business." People in the lobby started to turn and stare. Then he leaned in closer to the desk and said, loud enough for others to hear, "You know how it is. Some people move up fast once they start sleeping with the boss." Heat rushed to my face. It felt like someone had dumped ice water down my back. A few people gasped. Others whispered. The words hung in the air like poison. The receptionist's eyes widened. She picked up the phone, her voice low as she called security. Then she reached for another line. I knew exactly whose office she was calling. I turned and almost ran back to my desk. My hands shook. Before I could decide what to do, Christopher's door flew open. His face was stone. His eyes were cold and hard. "Stay here," he said. His voice was so low it almost scared me more than if he had shouted. He did not wait for the elevator. He took the stairs down, his steps sharp and controlled. From above, I watched him cross the marble floor like a storm moving over water. The lobby went silent. He stopped right in front of Charles. "You must be Mr. Davies," he said. His voice was smooth but deadly. Charles tried to stand tall, but I saw the way his shoulders tightened. "Yeah, and you are the guy who—" "I do not care what your name is," Christopher cut in, his voice dropping. "Here is what I care about. Miss Blake is doing the kind of work this company needs to grow. Future-critical work. You, on the other hand, are trespassing and harassing one of my most valued employees." He took a step closer. Charles stepped back without meaning to. "This is the only time I will say this," Christopher continued, each word sharp as glass. "Security will escort you out. If you ever come back here, if you ever contact Miss Blake again, if I hear you say her name in public, my legal team will take you apart piece by piece. Your job, your reputation, your bank account. You will spend the rest of your life wishing you had never heard the name Paige Blake. Am I clear?" Charles had gone pale. He swallowed and nodded. "Good," Christopher said, turning away as two security guards moved in. He looked up then, and his eyes found mine at the top of the stairs. His expression softened for a brief second. The lethal ice faded, replaced by something warmer. Something like concern. "Are you all right?" He called up to me, his voice just loud enough. I nodded, but my throat was too tight to speak. He had not mocked me. He had not scolded me for the mess. He had not thrown my wild bar stunt back in my face. He had defended me. Fiercely. Completely. Not like I was a problem to fix. Like I was something worth protecting. It confused me more than anything else he had done. After that day, something changed between us. The gossip in the office did not vanish, but it died down. People had seen what happened in the lobby. They had seen which side the CEO stood on. That mattered. Inside our small world on the top floor, the air felt different. He was still demanding, still sharp, still controlling. But sometimes, when he looked at me, there was something else in his eyes. Respect. and something deeper I was not ready to name. 2 weeks later, he walked out of his office, already wearing his coat. "Pack a bag," he said. I blinked. "I am sorry, what?" "We are going to Milan," he said, like it was no big deal. "Design Expo. Meetings. We leave in 3 hours." My brain tripped over the word. Milan. Italy. Another country. Another world. "I need you there," he added. "You are my design lead now." Those words sent a little rush of pride through me, tangled with pure panic. Somehow, in the middle of all the chaos, he had started to trust my work enough to bring me into his inner circle. 3 hours later, we were on a plane together, side by side in business class. During the day in Milan, everything was work. We moved through the expo halls together, talking about layouts, color stories, brand tone. We argued and laughed and pushed each other's ideas higher. Sometimes we finished each other's sentences when we talked about design problems. It felt like our minds were learning to move and sync. He was sharp, fast, and tough. But he listened. When I disagreed, he did not shut me down. He pushed back. Then sometimes he surprised me by saying, "You are right. Go with that." At night, the lines blurred. We walked through narrow streets lit by warm lights. We shared pasta at a tiny family restaurant where the owners called him Signore and kept bringing more bread. We stood together under the open sky in the Brera district, listening to street music and watching couples dance. Sometimes I would forget he was my boss, forget that he had once felt like an enemy. He became just Christopher, a man who loved buildings and old cities, a man who knew a lot about art history, a man who laughed more than I ever thought he could. On our last night, we stood on the balcony of our shared suite. The air was warm. The city glowed below us. The spires of the Duomo rose in the distance like white stone against the deep blue sky. He handed me a glass of wine and leaned on the railing beside me. "A good trip," he said. "Very good," I said. "Professionally, anyway." He glanced at me, the corner of his mouth twitching. "Only professionally." I took a sip and looked away, out at the city lights. My heart was beating a little too fast again. After a long, quiet moment, he said, "Paige, I want to ask you something." His voice had lost its boss tone. It was softer. "Why me?" he asked. "At the bar that night. Why did you choose me?" No joking. No judgment. Just a real question. I stared at the cathedral, my throat tight. "I was hurt," I said finally. "And angry. I wanted to break his ego the way he broke my heart. You look like the most powerful man in the room." I swallowed and forced myself to look at him. "And I thought if he saw me kiss you, it would hurt him," I said quietly. "I did not know who you were. I just saw strength." He was silent for a long time, watching me with those intense gray eyes. Then he stepped closer. The space between us shrank. My breath caught. "What if I kiss you now?" he asked, voice low and rough. "No revenge. No games. No audience. Just me and you." The world narrowed to his face, his eyes, the heat of his body so close to mine. My heart pounded against my ribs. I could have stepped back. I did not. His hand came up and cupped my cheek, thumb brushing my skin with a tenderness that made my chest ache. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to say no. I did not. My eyes fluttered shut. My body leaned toward him like it had its own mind. I could feel his breath on my lips. And then, in one sharp movement, he pulled away. He turned his back to me, both hands gripping the balcony railing. His shoulders were tight. His voice, when he spoke, was harsh. "We have an early flight," he said. "You should get some sleep." He did not look at me. He walked back into the suite and closed his bedroom door. I stood there alone, my skin burning, my heart twisting. My lips ached with a kiss that almost happened and then was taken away. The flight home was quiet torture. The space beside us seemed full of words neither of us could say. Back at the office, he was different. Colder. More distant. He never brought up the balcony. He never brought up Milan. He hid behind his title again. Behind his walls. I tried to pretend it did not hurt. I focused on work. On files. On meetings. One day, while cleaning up his crazy digital calendar, I saw something that made my hand pause on the mouse. A recurring appointment. Every third Thursday of the month. 3 full hours blocked out. One word in the memo. Clinic. No details. No address. Nothing else. Just that word. My mind went straight to the darkest place. Was he sick? Was that why he kept people at arm's length? Why he shut down in Milan? He did not look sick. He looked strong and steady. But the thought would not leave me alone. Later, When he was locked in a long board meeting, I opened a private browser and searched the clinic name from the hidden notes in his calendar. It was not a normal doctor's office. It was a hospice, a palliative care center, a place people went when things could not be fixed anymore. A chill went through me. I dug deeper, using the same research habits I used when I worked on brands. Charity reports, old news posts, name lists of big donors. That was when I found it. An old article about a new wing at the clinic, paid for by a large, silent donor in memory of his mother, Eleanor Harrington, who had died there 5 years earlier after a long, cruel illness that ate away her nervous system. My heart squeezed. Peace's voice was rough, breakable. I know you do not, I answered gently. Maybe you just need a friend. The word hung in the air between us. Friend. Something in him sagged. The anger drained out of his face, leaving only deep, raw pain. Today is the anniversary, he said, voice barely more than a whisper. The day she died. His eyes went to the photo again. The tight grip he kept on himself finally slipped. She was everything, he choked out. And I could not do anything. All my money, all my power, all my ideas, and I just stood there and watched her fade. My heart broke for him. I walked over and gently took the glass from his hand, setting it on the desk. Then I did the only thing that felt right. I took his hand in mine. It was cold at first. Then his fingers closed around mine like he was grabbing a lifeline. We stood there in the quiet, his grief like a heavy tide, my hand a small anchor in it. It was not romantic. It was not about power. It was simple and human. He looked down at our joined hands, then up at my face. His eyes shone with tears he was fighting to hold back. In that moment, I saw him fully. Not the boss, not the billionaire, just a man who was deeply, painfully alone. That night, the last wall between us finally cracked. Sweetheart, if you are still listening to this story, make sure you hit subscribe so you do not miss what happens next. Thank you for staying with me. After that night in his office, standing in the dark with his hand holding mine, nothing was the same. We did not talk about what happened. We did not name it. But it was there, in every look, every quiet moment, every late night we spent working side by side. He was still demanding. He still pushed me, still checked every detail. But the cold edge was gone. There was a softness in his eyes now, a quiet respect that warmed me from the inside. Sometimes, when he passed my desk, our hands brushed, just for a second, and my heart would jump like it was trying to fly. We stayed late a lot, finishing the last stages of the Harrington Media rebrand. The logo was done, but now there were full campaigns, presentations, rollout plans. It was huge. It was the biggest project of my life. One night, we were the only ones left in the building. The final board presentation was the next morning. I was checking the last slide when I felt him behind me. It is done, I said, stepping back from the big screen. That is everything. It is perfect, he said quietly. I turned. He was closer than I expected. There was a strange light in his gray eyes. He went to the small bar in the corner of his office and opened a bottle of champagne. He poured 2 glasses and handed one to me. To the new Harrington Media, he said, raising his glass. And to the woman whose vision made it real. My cheeks warmed. We make a pretty good team, I said. Yes, he answered, his voice dropping a little. We do. He set his glass down. Then he took mine and set it beside his. My breath hitched. The air changed. The room felt smaller, closer, like the walls were leaning in. He stepped closer, slow and sure, giving me time to move away. I did not move. Paige, he said, my name rough in his throat. His hand came up and cupped my cheek, just like on the balcony in Milan. Only this time, his eyes were open and clear. No fear. No pulling back. He leaned in. I met him halfway. He kissed me. This kiss was nothing like that wild, angry kiss in the bar. It was slow and deep and full of every unsaid word between us. It tasted like late nights and shared work and quiet pain and new hope. My hand slid up his chest. His fingers pushed into my hair. The world outside his office stopped existing. There was only us. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathless. He rested his forehead against mine. Tell me to stop, and I will walk away, he said softly. But if you do not, I am not going to pretend anymore. I wrapped my fingers around his tie and pulled him closer again. Do not stop, I whispered. The next morning, the world looked brighter. Or maybe I just felt lighter. At work, we pretended nothing had changed. We were careful. We kept things professional in meetings, in halls, in front of the team. But the secret lived in every glance, every small touch when no one was looking. The board presentation was a big win. The new brand direction was a hit. They praised the logo, the strategy, the fresh feel. In particular, Christopher said in front of everyone, "I want to recognize the designer at the heart of this change. This vision belongs to Paige Blake." He said my name with pride. The board nodded. People clapped. My chest swelled. But outside that room, the story people chose to tell was different. It started small. A look here. A whispered joke there. My old department head, Mark, was the worst. She kissed her way to the top. I heard him say by the coffee machine one morning, his voice low but not low enough, "You do not get the CEO's door that fast by talent alone." His words spread like oil on water. Suddenly, the friendly smiles I used to get in the design department turned stiff or cold. People stopped asking me to lunch. When I walked into a room, conversations paused. Some coworkers would look at me like I was something cheap, not someone who had worked late and fought for every idea. They looked at me like I was only the boss's girl. My work, the thing I had always been proud of, became the thing people used against me. After the rebrand launch, when the company started getting praise in the press, I passed a group in the hall and heard Mark say, "Sure, he gave her credit. He has to keep his pet happy." The words hit me like a punch. I went into a small empty office and shut the door. My eyes burned. My chest hurt. I pressed my hands over my face and tried not to cry. I loved Christopher. I knew that now. But I also loved my work, my name, my self-respect. And this job was slowly ripping that away. That night, I went to his office. He was on a call, but when he saw me, his face lit with a warm smile that made my heart ache. He hung up. "Perfect timing," he said, standing. "I was just about to order dinner for us." "Christopher," I said, my voice shaking. "We need to talk." The smile faded. He saw the pain in my face right away. "What is wrong?" I took a deep breath and put a white envelope on his desk. "My resignation. I am leaving," I said. He stared at the envelope, then at me. His eyes widened. "What? What?" "Because I cannot do this," I said, tears filling my eyes. "I cannot be your employee and your girlfriend. Not here. Not like this." "Is this about the rumors?" he asked, anger flashing in his eyes. "I do not care what they say." "But I do," I said. "They think I am here because I sleep with you. They think you gave me everything. They talk about me like I am nothing but a body in your office." "Christopher, I worked too hard to let them tear my name apart." "I will fix it," he said. "At once, not go to fancy events." We went to the park. We walked, holding coffee in paper cups, talking about things that had nothing to do with Harrington Media. We went to museums and argued about art. We cooked together in my small kitchen, bumping into each other, laughing when he cut vegetables in perfect, straight lines. He met my family, not as a rich CEO, but as the man I was with. He listened to my mom's stories. He helped my dad fix a loose cabinet door. At night, we talked. Really talked. He told me about his mother, about the hospital, about the sound of her voice fading, about the way he had sworn nothing would ever surprise him again. I told him about my old dreams of being an artist, how I had settled for safe, work to help my family, how I had let someone like Charles make me feel small. We peeled back every layer we had built to survive. Underneath, we found something simple and real. Two people who were scared and strong and stubborn and in love. On the last day of his leave, we sat on a bench in the same park where we had walked that first week. The air was cool. Leaves moved in the trees above us. "My month is over," he said quietly. "I go back tomorrow." Fear flickered in my chest. "What does that mean for us?" He took my hand. His grip was warm and sure. "It means I go back to being CEO," he said. "But I do not go back to being that man. The one who hides behind control and walls. You changed that. I love you, Paige. I will spend the rest of my life proving that, in the boardroom or in your tiny kitchen." It was my turn to decide. Live in fear of his job forever, or trust who he had become. I leaned in and kissed him, slow and sure. "That is enough," I whispered. On Monday, we walked into Harrington Media together, hand in hand. People stared. Whispers moved through the halls. I kept my head high. This time, I was not afraid. Later, in his office, he smiled at me. "I had your desk moved back to the design department," he said. "You can have your old spot if you want it." I smiled back, then shook my head. "I cannot work for you." I said softly. Not if I want to stay myself. His smile faded, just a little. Then what do you want? I put a thick, bound document on his desk. The title on the front read, Blake Creative, Independent Design Agency. I want to start my own agency, I said. Not under you. Beside you. I will run my own team. My own clients. Harrington Media can be one of them. You will not be my boss. You will be my first investor and my partner on the board. He opened the file and read. His eyes moved over my business plan, my numbers, my vision. Pride slowly spread across his face. You are not asking for your job back, he said. You are asking me to bet on you. Yes, I said. Not as your girlfriend. As a businesswoman. He closed the file and came around the desk. It is the smartest investment I will ever make, he said. He held out his hand. Congratulations, Madam CEO. I shook his hand, my smile wide and bright. For one moment, we were not boss and employee. We were partners. Equals. Then he pulled me close and kissed me. This time, it was not a secret or a risk. It was a promise. 1 year later, Blake Creative was loud and alive. Our floor in the Harrington Tower was full of color, music, and wild ideas pinned to every wall. Designers argued about layouts. Interns ran around with coffee and sketches. There was laughter and chaos in life. I stood at the head of a long table, leading my team through a pitch for a huge new client. When it ended, they clapped, not because I was dating a CEO, but because I was theirs. Their leader, their boss, their Paige. On a shelf in my office sat a sleek metal trophy from a National Design Award. We had won for the Harrington rebrand campaign. The same logo I had cried over in that old office now had my agency's name on the plaque. Christopher leaned in the doorway, watching me with soft eyes and a proud smile. He was still CEO of Harrington Media, but when he stepped into my office, he was just the man who believed in me first and hardest. Look at you, he said later, wrapping his arms around me from behind as we admired the trophy. I told you this was the best investment I ever made. I thought I was just a promising talent you took a risk on, I teased. You were always safe, he said quietly into my hair. I just had to learn how to get out of your way. I turned and looked up at him, my heart full. I am glad you did, I said. He kissed me, slow and sure, in the middle of my busy, crazy office. No one whispered. No one doubted. They just smiled and kept working because they knew who I was and what I had built. We were a power couple, yes, but not because of money or titles. We were two people who had learned to love without control, to fight for each other and for ourselves. An empire of two, built on respect, shared dreams, and a kiss that had started as revenge and turned into the best accident of my life.